Welcome to the first shiur. Thank you for having patience with us. We're figuring out the hybrid learning. We have a beautiful group of women here in Matan. We have women joining us on Zoom from everywhere, from locally in Ra'anana to Palo Alto, California, New York, Pardes Chana, right, Ramat Gan, all over. So welcome. Those of you who'd like to turn on your cameras, that would be wonderful. But of course, we respect if you choose not to. I just want you to see the ladies who are here today.
Why am I not able to hear Gina?
We're 13 people on Zoom. Wonderful. Wow. Okay. With your permission, I am going to where's mute? I am muting everyone with the opportunity to unmute yourself. So please feel free. Of course, those of you who are new to Matan, those of you who are new to my classes, please feel free to raise your hand, to make a comment, to unmute yourself. I will try my best. The women who are in the room, right, who want to speak, of course, and participate, to try to repeat it for you, those of you who are on from home, so that we can try to create a classroom atmosphere. As I said, this is all new to all of us. So we're figuring it out, the hybrid learning. We're just so happy to be back to the learning. So we're focusing on the positives, right? The fact that we've come back to the shiurim is very exciting. Our topic this year is Jewish women through the ages. And I realized that I had called the topic Jewish women, and already that was a problem. Why? Because I wanted to start with biblical women, and most of our biblical women are not Jewish. Let's be honest, right? If we are to define Jewish, right, that's already a problem, because most of our imahot, right, surely is before Matan Torah. Can we call them even Jewish? I said, okay, we'll have a little bit of leeway, right? At least in the beginning, we will allow, right? We have to discuss certain biblical women. That's, of course, going to be interesting to us. Biblical women will make our way through the year, through the Tanakh, and then also Mishnah, Talmud, hope to, by the end of the year, also modern, present day, interesting Jewish women. And I'm happy if someone would like to put forward a suggestion of someone that they would be interested to learn about. I'm always happy to do homework, to do a bit of research. I do need to preface the shiur by saying that when we speak about biblical Jewish women, we are going to have to rely a great deal on Midrash. Why do I say that? Because the biblical text is scarce, it's scanty, right, with regard to the women in the Torah. We have many women in the Torah throughout the Tanakh, but our sources are limited. And therefore, Midrash plays a very important role. What is the role of Midrash? It comes to fill in the gaps. It comes to give us, right, a better or clearer picture. And that's important. That's one of the big roles that Midrash plays. I do need to say, if we are going to be relying a great deal on Midrash, two things which are, I think, important. And that is, there is not one specific book called Midrash. And often when we hear the Midrash says, right, what exactly is the Midrash says? The Midrash is a compilation, right, of commentaries or drashot, right, taken from the biblical text, were compiled between 200 and 1000 CE. So it's a very, very big, right, time period of collections. The Balei HaMidrash, when they came to fill in the blanks, right, and give us a clearer picture, perhaps where the biblical text was chaser, or what? Yeah. Are doing us a great service. But there is a problem with Midrash. First of all, we need to always separate between what is biblical text and what is Midrash. And the problem is that many of us learn the Midrashim as if they were biblical text. And we have to understand that what is and what is not written in the Torah. And the other thing which is important is this. When we learned Midrash, when we were in school, we were taken back by the fanciful stories, and they came to give us the most wonderful picture of Torah, and they made Torah beloved to us. And I'll just give you an example. When the Ganenet teaches about, before Chag HaShavuot, all the mountains were arguing, let the Torah be given on me, let the Torah be given on me. Just how Sinai was quiet, right? And Hashem chose Har Sinai because it was the humblest of mountains. So when we're children in the Gan Yeladim, it's fanciful, it's amazing, and we can just imagine this argument taking place. Then we grow up and we become a little bit cynical, and we say, lest I use the word, Baba Mainzes, okay? We say Shtuyot b'mitzagvaniot. That's what we say. We say these are all what? These are fanciful stories. But there has to be a third step. The third step is that we come as adults now, as Lomdei Torah, and we ask ourselves an important question. What is the Midrash coming to teach us? It's true that it is a story. It's true that sometimes it sounds, what? A bit outrageous, right? Or unbelievable. Surely there is a message, right? Between the lines. Now, I want us to keep that in mind when we look today at our amazing biblical character that we're going to learn about today. Her name is Serach bat Asher. Those of you who have the source sheets, enjoy. Oh, I'm very excited to see people from my childhood, to see Betty and Judy here. Kol hakavod lachem. Very, very exciting. Kol hakavod. Okay, who is Serach bat Asher? It's important that we introduce her with her full name, Serach, the daughter of Asher. Who is Asher? Asher is one of the 12 sons of Yaakov, right? She is the granddaughter of Yaakov Avinu, okay? And she appears in the Torah as Serach, the daughter of Asher. So the first time that Serach is mentioned is in the count or the census of the Jewish people who came down to Mitzrayim. This is the family of Yaakov when, right, remember Joseph was in Egypt? Remember, just reminding everyone, right? Joseph was in Egypt. Yaakov and his family come down to Egypt. And the Torah says, these are the names of the children of Israel who came into Egypt, Yaakov and his sons, Reuven, Yaakov's firstborn. And the sons of Reuven are, all of them are listed. And the sons of Shimon, all of them are listed. And the sons of Levi, all of them are listed. Now, surely there have to be women among these, what? Children as well. Except, tell me, what? They're not listed. Thank you. They're not listed. They're not mentioned. Okay. These are the names of the children of Israel, says Judy. Surely that must mean what? There are women included as well, right? Except that the only people listed are what? The sons of. These are the sons. And these are the sons of Reuven. These are the sons, right, of Shimon. These are the sons of Levi. These are the sons, these are the sons. Okay, and at the end of, these are the sons of Issachar, these are the sons of Zvulun. Verse 15, Ele bnei Leah, these are the sons of Leah, whom she bore unto Yaakov in Padan Aram, with his daughter Dina. Okay, here we have a woman who is mentioned, right? The son of Yaakov, who is Dina. All the souls of his sons and his daughters were 30 and 3. 33. These are the numbers of what? Bnei Leah.
Is that just children or also grandchildren? You couldn't have 33 children.
No, these are the grandchildren, including the grandchildren. And the sons of Gad are listed, and the sons of Asher, Imnah and Ishva and Ishvi and Beriah, and Serach, their sister. And the sons of Beriah are Hever and Malkiel. Veserach achotam. This already is interesting because we didn't have any names of any woman except for Dina, that she's listed, and she's a direct descendant of Yaakov, but we didn't have any grandchildren who were listed in terms of women. The only woman who is mentioned in the list of grandchildren is Serach. And how is she listed? Well, she is the daughter of Asher, and she's listed as what? Thank you. Their sister. Their sister. Veserach Achotam. That's how she's listed. And these are the sons of Zilpah and the sons of Rachel, Yaakov's wife, Yosef and Binyamin. And unto Joseph in the land of Egypt were born Menashe and Ephraim, whom Asnat, the daughter of Potipharah of On, bore unto him. The two sons of Joseph were born in Egypt, right? And so there's a debate about whether or not they are counted within the 70 or not, right? But the list is complete now. All the sons of Yaakov, including Dinah, and their children. The final count, Elishmod bnei Israel haba'im Mitzrayim Yaakov ubanav, right? They are 70 in total. Now, we are fascinated by the fact that Serach, Achotam, is in this list. Now, the rabbis are also fascinated because surely there were other girls. There's no, it's statistically impossible that among 13 children, right, there were no daughters born. Surely there were daughters born. She is the only one who is listed. Now, if she is listed, what is the conclusion we have to draw? If she is listed, she is important. Thank you. She is important. There is a reason why she is listed. There must be what? There must be a story here. There must be something to uncover. Otherwise, she would not have been listed. Now, what's interesting is that this is not the only time that Serach appears in the Torah. She actually appears in another place. In Sefer Bamidbar, this is the census of the book of Bamidbar, the people who are going to enter what? The land of Israel. Bnei Asher, the sons of Asher, the Mishpachotam Limina, Mishpachat Yemina, Yishvi Mishpachat Yishvi, Lebiria, Mishpachat Brii, Lifnei Beriria, Lechever Mishpachat Chevri, Malkiel Mishpachat Malkieh, Veshem Bat Asher Serach. And the name of Asher's daughter was Serach. And these are the families of the son of Asher, according to those that were numbered of them, 50 and 3,400. In her appearance in these two genealogical lists, the rabbis have to ask a question. Why is she mentioned among all of the people? She is the only one who is mentioned, not only once, but she is mentioned twice. So as I said, there has to be a story here. And actually, what's very interesting is that these two censuses span a huge time period. First, we have the Jewish people who entered Egypt, and now we have the people who are entering the land. And in both of those lists, she appears. Now, according to our tradition, how long were the Jewish people in Egypt? 400 years. 400 years, says the Torah. 210 years is the accepted count. Okay, so if she is counted among those who come to Egypt, and she is counted among those that what? Enter the land, she has to be at least what? More than 210 years old. Okay, at least. Okay, let's say 250 years old, correct. Okay, then now we go to the Midrash. What is the story of this woman? What has she done? What is special about her that she is listed? What is her story? And this is what the Midrash says. The Midrash speaks of Serach's great beauty and her wisdom. When Yosef was reunited with his brothers and sent them to the land of Canaan to bring his father Yaakov to him in Egypt, he ordered them not to alarm their aged father. The beginning of the Midrash is very important. The beginning of the Midrash is this. Yosef is reunited with his brothers. He wants to bring his father Yaakov to Egypt. And he says to his brothers, bring my father. But you're going to have to tell him that the reason he's coming to Egypt is what? Yosef is alive, right? To be reunited with his beloved Joseph. But what? Yosef is very sensitive to the fact that his father would receive a shock after 22 years. And the last thing he wants is what? That his father should have a heart attack and die, right? Before they can be reunited, right? And so he says to his brothers, when you, reveal the news that I am alive, right? Do so in a way which is sensitive, okay? Now, this is an important, the Midrash is coming to teach us life lessons. This is an important life lesson. I always say, ask my kids, I say this all the time, surprises are overrated. I say it all the time. People think that people like surprises. Actually, people like to be prepared. I'm being honest, okay? I have many students who are of a certain age. Trust me, a 90-year-old woman doesn't want to be surprised, right, for her 90th birthday. No, they want to be prepared. This is an important life lesson, says the Midrash. Even good news needs to be relayed, right, in a fashion which is sensitive. So now our story continues. How are the sons of Joseph going to tell their father that Yosef is alive? The brothers summoned Sarah. She's the daughter of Asher, right? One of the brothers. She's the granddaughter of Yaakov. And they asked her to sit before Yaakov and play for him on the lyre. And in this way revealed to him that Yosef was alive. And she played and she sang gently, Yosef, my uncle, didn't die. He lives and rules in the land of Egypt. Od Yosef Chai. Now, it's brilliant. What is Sarah's job? Her job is to give over the news to her Sabbah, to her grandfather, that Joseph is alive. And how does she do it? First of all, she does it through music, right? She does it in a way which the news can be heard in a way which is gentle and soothing. And so she plays, my uncle Yosef is alive, right? And Yaakov hears the lyrics of the song and he slowly absorbs, right? Integrates what is being said, okay? And she played it for Yaakov 2 or 3 times and he was pleased by what he heard and joy filled his heart. And the Spirit of God rested on him, and he sensed the truth of her words. The Midrash is beautiful. It means that he realized that what she was singing and what she was saying, was true, right? She wasn't a child who was fancifully making something up, but rather, right, that her words were truthful. And so, what is Sarah's job? How does she already stand out? She is the one who has the job to tell her grandfather what Joseph is alive, right? They chose her to be the shlicha, right? To be that special messenger. That's the role that she plays. And I think it's fascinating that music plays an important part here, that people through music can be therapeutic, right? In many ways, we know that, right? In hospitals, we play music. When a woman is right in labor, we play music. Music has a way to convey something, right, in a special way. And so Sarah, through music, tells Yaakov that Yosef is alive. He said to her, Yaakov said to Sarah, continue to play for me, for you have heartened me with all that you have said. And while he was speaking with her, his sons came to him with horses and chariots and royal garments, with slaves running before them, and told him, we bring glad tidings, for Yosef still lives and he rules all the land of Egypt. After he had already heard the words of Sarah, then what does he see? Then he sees the wagons. And now he's able to receive the news of Yosef's being alive in a different way, right? Without getting a shock. We bring glad tidings, for Yosef still lives and he rules over the land of Egypt. And when Yaakov saw all that Yosef had sent, he knew that they spoke truthfully. He was exceedingly happy. Again, the Midrash is between the lines, kind of making a comment towards the brothers. And Yaakov knew that they were speaking the truth. Why would that even be an element in the story? Because they had showed a coat. These very same people had showed a coat that was dripped in blood. And they said what, right? This is the coat of Joseph, right? This time it says he believes them. He understands that it is truth that is being told. And he turns to Sarah and he says to her, he was exceedingly happy. And he says, this is enough for me. My son Yosef is still alive. I must go and see him before I die. And then the Midrash goes on to say, Yaakov turned to Sarah and he said to her, my daughter, because, well, she's the granddaughter, but right? My daughter, because you revived my spirit, death shall never rule over you. What is the blessing of the Sabbah to the Nechda, to the grandfather, to the granddaughter? Because you revived my spirit and you essentially gave me back what? My life or reason to live. I bless you with longevity or long life. This comes to explain what? How she's 250 years old. It seems that the blessing of her grandfather, what? Came true, right? She is from those that come into Mitzrayim, and she's also among the people that go in to the land of Eretz Israel, right? She was indeed blessed with, right, with long life, with longevity. Okay. Now, again, we need to take the Midrash, I say with a grain of salt. We need to say, right, what does it mean because you revived me, you should be blessed with long life? Here I go back to the concept of life lessons. When we give someone good news, when we compliment them, when we pick them up and give them life, we also, what? We get life. You understand? This is the blessing which comes back to us. If we cause others happiness by giving them good news, by complimenting them, by encouraging them, we also merit life, right? And so the idea that if I have the opportunity, right, to help someone and pick them up in any way, right, then it comes back to me in the form of a blessing as well. Now, this was not enough. The rabbis were sure that such a special woman who was the one who played on the lyre, Joseph is alive, would not be content playing what? Taking a back step. Taking a back, what was it? Seat. Taking a back seat. Surely she will appear again. And the rabbis assigned Sarah a very important role among the Jews who were in Egypt. It says she was the one who identified Moshe as the Redeemer. The Midrash relates that there was a secret that was given over to Abraham and then conveyed to Yitzchak, and Yitzchak to Yaakov, and Yaakov to Yosef, and it was transmitted also to the brothers. And the secret was this: when God would take notice of you, pakod yifkod etchem, you shall carry up my bones from here. What did Yosef say to his brothers before he died? He said, there will be a time in which you will leave the land of Egypt. And when that happens, I want you to take my bones with you, right? This was the promise that Yosef made his brothers swear. And indeed, we go back to the Chumash, B'Yetziat Mitzrayim, during the Exodus, Moshe takes the bones of Joseph, making sure that that promise that was made is indeed fulfilled. The Midrash says, Asher passed this secret, pakod yifkod, onto his daughter Sarah. And when Moshe and Aaron came to the Israelite leaders and they performed miracles before them, they went to Sarah and they said to her, a certain man has come to us and has performed such wonders. She replied, there is no substance to him. And then they said, but he said the words, when God will take notice of you, pakod yifkod etchem. Then she said, this man is the Redeemer. She was able to point out that Moshe and Aaron spoke the truth, that they truly were shlichim of God. Yes, Ellen.
I just find it fascinating that everything is so male dominated and this super important piece of information is passed female.
To a woman. She is the one. Now, what's interesting is that I read a lot of scholarly articles about the folklore behind Serach Bat Asher. And one of the things which keeps coming up is that she is the one who is the revealer of secrets, which I think is very interesting. Someone to be put in charge of a secret and to be given the job to what? To reveal it when the time is right is a huge task. It means that this person is greatly trusted, right? Now, it makes sense because Joseph is still alive is such a secret, right? Why? Well, the brothers are not sure, but then the brothers meet him, right? And this essentially is a secret that needs to be revealed. And it is placed in her hands to be the revealer. Now, Moshe and Aaron show up. The Jewish people don't know how to what? Right? How exactly to relate to them. She stands up and says what? They're the real thing. I know. My father gave me what? The secret. The secret. The secret is that the person who would get up and say, Hashem yifkod, pakod yifkod etchem. Those two words, pakod yifkod, that God will remember, that is the one. And Moshe used those words. So Alexa is asking, what does the Midrash mean when it says it was passed from one generation to the other, beginning with Avram? In our parsha this week, we have the covenant between the pieces, the Brit Ben Avtarim, in which Avram is told what? Your children will be in the slaves in the land. They will suffer, right, in a land which is not theirs, right? And then, right, they will come out with Bilchush Gadol, right? So it seems that from the time of Abraham, right, someone had to know that the time will come, right? Who will redeem? How to recognize the Redeemer. Thank you for clarifying that. Now, not only does she identify Moshe and Aaron as the real deal, she has another tafkid. Vaikach Moshe et atzmot Yosef imo. This is the day of the Exodus of Egypt. Everyone is busy what? Collecting from the Egyptians, putting matzah on their back. What are the people busy doing, right? Getting out of there, right? And Moshe takes the bones of Yosef. He hishba bnei Israel, because he had exacted an oath from the children of Israel, saying, Pakod yifkod Elohim etchem, there are the words, Pakod yifkod, ve'alitem et atzmotayim mizeh. God will surely take notice of you, and you will carry up my bones from here with you. Says the Midrash, this was Serach, who located the coffin of Yosef. Why? Not only did she locate the coffin of Yosef, she revealed to Moshe, and she said, I told Yaakov that Yosef was alive. You can trust me, Moshe. I know what I'm talking about. I am the one who is what? The revealer of things that have been kept secret for so long. The tradition is indeed that Yosef's coffin was in Egypt, but nobody knew exactly where it was. But Moshe is determined not to leave Egypt without Atzmot Yosef, without the bones of Joseph. And the truth is, we know, because it says in the Torah that they carried the bones of Yosef. When they come into the land, they bury Yosef. So, well, originally it wasn't the intention, but 40 years, the bones of Joseph are carried in the desert until they are buried in Eretz Canaan. Look at what the Talmud in Masechet Sotah says. In the Midrashic account, Sarah helped Moshe to fulfill the oath sworn to Yosef to carry up his bones. While the Israelites were ready to leave Egypt, they were occupied in taking booty, and Moshe was the only one who was engaged with Joseph's bones. He searched for his coffin in all the land of Egypt, but he could not locate it. The only person of that generation who was still alive is who? Sarah, the daughter of Joseph, of Asher. She's an old lady, but she's still alive, right? Moshe went to her and said, do you know where Yosef is buried? And she said, they placed him here. The Egyptians made for him a metal coffin and sunk it in the Nile so that its waters would be blessed. Now that's very interesting. Why? Because Yosef was the one who provided food during the famine, right? For Egypt, they thought with the bones of Joseph would come a blessing. Moshe then went to the Nile. He stood on the bank and shouted, Yosef, Yosef, the time has come for the oath that God swore to our father Abraham that he would redeem his children. Give honor to the Lord, the God of Israel. Do not delay your redemption because we are delayed on your account. Basically, Moshe Rabbeinu says to the bones of Joseph, what? Look, we're running late. We have to get out of here, right? This is it. This is the time, right? If you show yourself, it will be well. And if not, then we are free from your oath. And if you will not raise your coffin, we will go forth from Egypt and leave you here. It sounds like something I would have said to my children. If you're not ready in 5 minutes, I'm leaving you here, right? What Moshe Rabbeinu is giving an ultimatum to the bones of Joseph. It's like absurd, right? But basically he says, you have to understand that there is a moment in time. We are about to leave. We made an oath, right? We want to stand by our word, but what? Time is of the essence. So either you appear or what? Or we're leaving, right? We're out of here, correct. And indeed, Yosef's coffin immediately rose to the surface and Moshe took it. This led the rabbis to state that Sarah delivered the faithful one to the faithful one, since she gave Yosef over to Moshe when they departed from Egypt. Now, what is interesting is that we have to tie all these stories together. Now, it seems, again, as I said in my introduction, that these stories are a little bit what? A little bit wild, honestly, right? But obviously, the Baalei Midrash are trying to give us a really important lesson here. And all the theme which ties the stories together is this woman, right? Her name is Sarah, the daughter of Asher. And she appears at all of these very important, what shall we call them? Crossroads for the Jewish people, right? She's there. I mentioned already that she is somehow connected to the revealing of a secret, which needs to be told, right? That's her job. Her longevity is her blessing, right? It's a blessing. And also the connection between Yaakov, Yosef, Moshe. There is the sign that this woman is involved in the redemption process, right? She is at all of these important points where it's time, right? It's time to reveal and it's time to move on. When Yosef is still alive, what do the family of Yaakov have to do? They have to go to Egypt. That's the important part of the process. When Moshe and Aaron come in front of the Jewish people, it's time for them to be redeemed, for them to go in front of Pharaoh. And when she appears here, telling Moshe where the bones of Joseph are buried, it's time for the people to go on to their next stage, which is move out of Egypt towards the land of Israel. And so I would go as far as to say that she's almost what? She's almost representative of what? Could we call it a midwife, perhaps? Helping people to move from what? One stage to another. Facilitator, says Alexa. That's a wonderful word. Correct. Now, I think the story should end there. It's perfect. We wrap it up so beautifully, right? The credits begin to roll. There we have our woman, right? But that's not the end of the story. The rabbis say that Sarah was not only among those who came to Egypt and among those who left, she also entered Eretz Israel. And in addition to her longevity, she was actually alive in the time of King David. Now, this would make the woman about 500 years old. I'm not exaggerating. Okay, now again, very hard to imagine, right, that she is so old. But what is the story connected to David HaMelech? The story is that there was hostility between the people of Yehudah, David's tribe of origin, and the people of Israel, the 10 northern tribes, following David's suppression of his son Avshalom's revolt. And a Benjaminite named Sheva ben Bichri capitalizes on the sentiment and calls for the northerners to forsake their share in David. And that is to rebel against the Malchut, against the kingship of David, or secede. And the scene is the set for Sheva's flight to the north, and he takes refuge in a place called Avel, where David's general Yoav chases him down. And Yoav's David's military commander, asks this woman, "Who are you?" And this woman says, "I am one of those who seek the welfare of the faithful in Israel." And she is saying, I am one of the Israelites who went down to Egypt with Jacob. I completed the count of Israel. I am part of the 70 souls that went down to Egypt. You, Yoav, want to kill the entire city, and also me, who am this important woman. In this manner, Serach saved the lives of all the inhabitants of her town. Now, there is such a woman called the woman of, the name of the city is Avel Bet Ma'acha, the wise woman of Avel Bet Ma'acha. She doesn't have a name. She's just called the wise woman. Theoretically, the rabbis could have left it at that. Surely throughout history, there were many wise women. They don't need to call her Serach Bat Asher, but they do. They say she was still alive, and she rescued her entire city during the times of David HaMelech. Okay, now, already now, I'm rolling my eyes. Okay? So now Alexa says, perhaps she is a metaphor for something. Okay? Perhaps she's a metaphor for something. Wait, it gets better. It gets better. Rabbi Yochanan was sitting in the Bet HaMidrash. Okay, now we're already talking what? Second Temple. Okay, Rabbi Yochanan sitting in the Bet Midrash. And he was discussing with his students the splitting of the sea. And he says, the water forming a wall for them on their right and on their left. Ubnei Israel ba'u betoch hayam, ve'amayim lahem choma mi'minam u'mismolam. He's describing what we say in Az Yashir, that what? That as the Jewish people crossed, the water formed, right, two walls, and the Jewish people crossed through. How could the water be a wall? This is the question that Rabbi Yochanan asks his Talmidim. And Rabbi Yochanan then says, it was kind of a net. He uses the word reshet, okay? That the water stood, but it was almost like see-through, like a net. Serach appeared where? Well, it was before Matan. She was in the Bet Midrash. There she was. She appears. She's studying there. And she turns to Rabbi Yochanan and she says, I was there. And the water was not a net, but it was a transparent window. Oh my goodness. Serach Bat Asher, now she's 1,000 years old. How old could she be, right? What is she? She's correcting Rabbi Yochanan. And she's saying to him, listen here, young, whippersnapper. Listen here. I'll tell you about Kriyat Yam Suf because what? Because I was there. I was there. And let me tell you, the water looked like this because I'm old enough to tell you from what? First-hand account. Okay. Now, how are we going to make sense of this? Okay. Surely it can't be the same Serach Bat Asher. She would be so old, right? But there is a woman in the Bet Midrash of Rabbi Yochanan who is correcting him and saying, I know what happened in Kriyat Yam Suf. Why? Because I was there. And I'm going to tell you firsthand what happened. Serach at this point would be over 1,500 years old, okay? According to my calculations, okay. Hard for us to believe, right? even if her grandfather Yaakov blessed her with long life, that anyone is alive, right, at 1,500 years old. Okay.
Every single thing.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
She has to be there.
Yafe.
Maybe it's telling us that this is an important part.
Okay. Yafe. Alexa says that it's similar to Forrest Gump, the movie, in that he almost seems to be at what? Every single important, right, historical event in American history, right? He's there. Suddenly we have this woman, and what? She is there, right? She's where? She's at the revelation of Yosef, right? She is the one who discovers Moshe and Aaron. She brings the bones of Joseph up. She's telling us about Kriyat Yamsuf. She comes into the land. She saves the people during the time of King David. You're right. She almost seems to be at what? Every important historical event who is there to tell about it? Serach bat Hashem, right? The tradition of Serach's longevity, right, is obviously the reason why she is listed in both the Torah, in the census of the people who go down to Egypt, but also, right, the people who enter the land of Israel. And then the Midrash Kahala Rabbati says, Serach never died. She was one of the people who entered Gan Eden. Shiva nichnasu bechayehem leGan Eden, ve'elu hem Serach, Enosh, Eliyahu, Pharaoh's daughter Bitya, the three sons of Korach, King Hiram, a whole list of people. What is outstanding about this list of people, according to the Midrash? They entered Gan Eden while still alive. Now, the only character that I could attest to that we know entered Gan Eden while still alive is the second person on that list. Who is that? Eliyahu. Because we know that story in the biblical text that Eliyahu went up b'se'ara hashamayma, right, in a chariot, and we have traditions until today at a Brit Milah and at the Seder night that what? We are visited by Eliyahu, right? That's still our tradition. What am I hinting at, ladies? I'm hinting at the fact that we have a female Eliyahu. The female Eliyahu in Jewish tradition is Serach bat Hashem. It's fascinating. It means that just as we have an Eliyahu who appears and what? Helps when necessary. So we have a feminine model of Eliyahu who always shows up when we need her. Yes. Thank you. Judy says she is the one to confirm the Mashiach. We'll see. The character of Sarah accompanies the Israelites to Egypt. She enters the land. Her character is linked to the people's leaders. And she is the one who realizes the divine plan. This is her role. She convinces Yaakov that Yosef still lives, right? She brings them down to Egypt. She identifies Moshe, right? And then she helps Moshe find Yosef's bones so as not to delay the Exodus. Serach's appearance confirms that God's promises are fulfilled, that the Jewish people will eventually enter Eretz Israel. She is the bearer of an oral tradition. She is a person who knows secrets, but she also represents life and redemption. And she functions as an eternal figure, rather like a female counterpart to Eliyahu, who will reveal the hidden time of the Mashiach when he is to arrive. Exactly as Judy said. She will be, what? One of the harbingers, you say? The person right? Yevaser lanu al biat HaMashiach will be Serach bat Hashem. Now, I have to be honest. I'm very upset that when I was growing up, I didn't know about this woman. I only came to learn about her much later. Why are we not learning these stories? She's fascinating. Just as we grew up on the stories of Eliyahu, we should grow up on the stories of what? Serach bat Hashem, right? This tremendous woman who will be the one who will what? Tell us, right? That the Geulah is arriving. Well, let me tell you something. Sephardic Jewry did right by her. Ashkenazic Jewry not. But Sephardic Jewry did right by Serach bat Hashem. In 1942, after the expulsion from Spain, there was a great deal of messianic activity. A crypto Jew by the name of Marie Gomez had a vision of Eliyahu and Serach bat Hashem walking hand in hand. It means that they had a tradition that these were the two figures that represented what? The people who would let us know that what? Mashiach was on his way. Eliyahu and Avi, well, maybe they were not holding hands exactly. They were walking hand in hand, Eliyahu and Serach bat Hashem, side by side. Persian Jewry in Iran had believed that the city of Isfahan had the kever of Serach bat Hashem, and that she lived among them until she died in a great fire in the 12th century CE. Now that means, well, how old would she have been, right? If she lived until the 12th century, right? The synagogue and its successors were known as the synagogue of Serach bat Hashem. And in the Jewish cemetery of Isfahan, there was to be found, at least until the end of the 19th century, a tombstone marking the resting place of Serach, the daughter of Asher, the son of our patriarch Yaakov, who died in the year 1133 CE. This gravesite, marked by a small mausoleum known as Cheder Serach, was a pilgrimage site for the Jews of Persia. And the Iranian Jews would come and pray there, just like people prayed at Kever Rachel. And the room is believed to have wondrous doorposts, and only people of good character and deed may enter. But the way in shrinks before anyone and prevents them from entering, right? Let me show you. This is a book written by a woman in Ra'anana. She made Aliyah from Iran. The name of the book is Shalkia. I know her well. Her name is Esther Shkalim. She has a picture here of the Bet Kfarot in Isfahan and kever marking Serach bat Hashem. Okay, this is tradition of Persian Jewry. Now, what's interesting about what Esther Shkalim says is that there were many girls in Iran that were given the name Serach. Many. And when they made Aliyah to Eretz Yisrael, people made fun of them because Serach is like Sirachon, smells bad. And they changed their name to Sarah and Sari. And almost you will not find anyone with the name Serach. But she said, growing up, Iranian Jewry, Persian Jews, often gave the name Serach because she was a woman that everyone admired, right? The same way you would give the name of anyone in the Torah. I just want to share with you this Yiddish lullaby. This woman, Esther Boylan writes, my grandmother of blessed memory sang of Serach bas Asher. At an advanced age, when events and songs of her childhood seemed most close to her, she enjoyed sharing the song of Serach with me. Serach became as familiar as a childhood friend, and the song still echoes in my mind and heart as I begin to write of Serach, whose story too starts with a song. Now, you'll forgive my Yiddish pronunciation, but here is the lullaby in Yiddish, right? Serach bas Asher hut gespielt. She played on her fiddle, a truly beautiful song for our father Yaakov. She sang and cried, Yosef is a king in Egypt. This was the lullaby in Yiddish, which she had heard throughout her childhood. The song about Serach bat Hashem playing the fiddle, right? To say Yosef is alive. And so there was a tradition, right? Perhaps, right, it wasn't kept alive, but people knew this. Esther Shkalim in that book has a poem that she wrote, which she calls Serach bat Asher lo ta'aneli. Serach bat Asher will not answer me. And the poem describes the fact that her mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother often would write tfilot or tchinot directed towards Serach bat Asher, that she should come and what? and lend a hand. Lend a hand. And she writes, Serach bat asher lo ta'ane li, abirat Yaakov, ki hayta imi terem nichreta chevel hatabur. She was with me even before the umbilical cord was cut. Imi za'aka eleha. My mother, when she was in labor, cried what? To her, to Sarah, right? He antal sabati be'et Sarah. She answered my grandmother when she was, what? In trouble. Ule'em sabati, and to the mother of my grandmother, my great-grandmother, be'et ratzon, at a time, right? At a time of great mercy, ve'iman hitale b'sara Yerushalayim. And she will join my grandmother and great-grandmother when everyone goes, what? To Yerushalayim. She's describing, right? Tchiyat HaMeitim, when everyone will go, right? To Yerushalayim. Bimchulat HaKululu, she explains in the footnotes that there is a cave which goes underneath the ground from Iran, from Persia, all the way to Yerushalayim. They will go in this underground cave. Ani aliti b'matos. I, on the other hand, what? Came to Jerusalem in an airplane, right? Serach bat asher lo ta'ane li. She will not answer me. Im sabati tivla et agor mesabazi. With my grandmother, she will eat, and it's a Persian dish that they would prepare. Uptilot Shabbat imimi hidlika. She lit Shabbos candles, what? With my mother. She is describing that the previous generation, her mother's generation, her grandmother's generation, and great-grandmother's generation, what? All of their religious observances were somehow connected with the tradition of Serach bat Asher, right? That she was present, right? And they asked her to come and help whenever it was necessary. Im tidafek al darti, if she comes knocking on my door, lechotama tilea umate eshala. When she comes knocking on my door, asking for her things, right? Then she's almost describing the cynicism of the young people who looked at their parents' generation and said, what? Oh, these superstitions, this folklore, that they looked to her for help and for guidance, right? But indeed, right, perhaps there is some longing. If she comes and knocks at my door, right, then I will lend to her, right? I will be there for her. I'll be available to her. And this completes our story about Serach bat Asher. Please, anyone have any questions or comments they'd like to make? With pleasure. Yes. Betty, you have to open your microphone.
Gina?
Yes,
Gina?
Helen.
Gina?
Yes.
I have a question.
Please.
Anytime you refer to Sarah, it's with Sarah bat Asher.
Yes.
When you mention men, you don't say Ben, whoever. How is it that in all the literature, it's always bat? Can she not stand on her own? As the men did?
Question. That's a very interesting question. Why does she appear always as Sarah, what? The daughter of, the daughter of, the daughter of, right? It's an excellent question, but, okay, Alexa says we have Yoshua bin Nun, he's the son of, right? I think.
But
so
Eliyahu is Eliyahu.
Yes, Eliyahu is Eliyahu, correct. We don't even know from where he comes from or what his tribe is. Nothing about Eliyahu, he's mysterious. Perhaps it is to give her, I don't want to use the word kavod. It's not to give her but to give her status. We should know where she comes from. She is a direct descendant of the children of Yaakov. She's the daughter of Asher. She's not just what? Some random woman, right? She has, maybe the word I'm looking for is yichus. This woman has yichus. And that's why she's called the daughter of Asher, right? To know who and where she comes from. Okay. Helen, yes, you wanted to make a comment.
Yes, I just wanted to say that it was just so interesting. And thank you so much.
Pleasure. Yes, Ellen.
Just wondering, if the first time in response to what Serach Bat Asha, the first Midrash you quoted just said Serach. And I wonder if 2,000 years later, they kind of gave her a last name to reaffirm that it was the same person.
Same person. Okay, that's a good point. That's a very good point. Interesting. I still don't have a good answer for why she appears as Achotam, right? The sister. But we do have another biblical woman who is called the sister. Who is that? That's Miriam. Miriam is also called the sister, right? With regard to Moshe, she's called the sister. So maybe, right, the fact that she also is called sister, right? Oh, it sounds very hip, right? Like Ahi, right? Achoti, sister, right? We're brothers and sisters, but she's definitely, right, receives the title of Achot, right? Which is, again, interesting. Thank you, all of you, for joining us today on Zoom and in person. Yishar Koach lekulam. Have a good week.
Gina, thank you.
With pleasure.
Thank you.
Our shiurim are every alternate Tuesday nights. I hope that the Zoom was clear and that everyone could hear and see. Thank you, everyone. Laila tov. Or good morning to those of you who it's morning.
Thank you, Gina.
The Zoom was amazing.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you for doing both.
Thank you.
Thank you.